this first course is continuing the work of the Guild as an organization that nurtures conscious leadership. It's nurturing conscious leadership by helping us recognize something within us that is the very heart of our leadership. And when we discover that place, and when we're functioning from that place, something is profoundly different. So that's what this course is about. It's about a transformed understanding of self, which results in a transformed understanding of others and our leadership. When I was thinking about this just about an hour ago, it reminded me this first segment, today's piece is about an investigation into the question, what am I? And I started thinking about Byron Katie's message, Byron Katie's, not only her message, but her method. And asking these profound questions. And you could actually do her method with this issue by taking somebody who has come to her and said, I have all of these problems. I can't pinpoint almost any of them, but I've got all of these problems that are creating so much suffering in me. And she might say to you, are you certain you're a person with problems? Are you certain you're a separate self, a separate entity having problems? Are you absolutely certain that you're a person having problems? What is life like for you right now when you believe that thought? And then she would ask, who would you be without that thought? Who would you be without the belief to be a person? Can you feel there's this popping open of, I have no idea what I am then, which is exactly the place we're going today. There's a saying that I heard that the problem, so we have a phrase that a lot of us like to use. I know Frank says it a lot, that conscious leadership is spiritual leadership. And there is this beautiful phrase that I heard. The problem is not that we have personified God. The problem is that we have personified ourselves. So this approach that I'm using in this course is an approach that physicists have used. Physicists are truth seekers. They want to know reality. And if you hear some of these physicists talk about what they've discovered as they first looked at reality as out there and discovered they could not find reality in the work of their field, because what they ended up with was symbolic representations of reality in the form of mathematical equations. And that frustration with the radical failure of physics to find reality had them turn their attention 180 degrees back to the consciousness, the awareness that was perceiving this investigation that they were doing. And it turned it back to this place where they're going, wow, what am I? What is this that knows my experience of being a physicist? What is it that knows my human experience? What is that? And it opened up a whole new field of investigation and understanding. And it was there that they found, in investigating the question, what am I? Investigating the thought I am, and that from which it came, from the experience from which it came. When they went from the thought to the direct experience, I am, something was profoundly different. That there was this sense of, yes, all is well. All is well and unfolding as it should. There was something there in that raw experience of I am, of this aware presence that we are, that knows our human experience, that knows our dreams at night, that is aware of vivid experiences, even while in a coma, that is aware of our near-death experience. There's a near-death experience that people have, but there is a knower of that near-death experience. And it is that we're interested in. And it opens up a whole new realm of investigation. And it's something that I cannot imagine anything more interesting. So as I read some of the great physicists of the 20th century and what they found in turning their attention to the source of the thoughts that they're having, to the source of the feelings that they're having, to the source of the sensations that they're experiencing, the source of the perceptions that they have. When they go to that source, here is some of the writing that they did as they did these very investigations that I laid out in this writing for week 1 in the course. My teacher, Francis Lucille, grew up as a scientist. He was an engineer, a physicist. His love was physics. He was an atheist. In France, he was identified early on as an extraordinarily bright kid. They put him into the best schools in the country, then hired him into their missile defense system. A few years later, terribly depressed, his marriage falling apart, being in the hospital with hepatitis, in somewhat of a not a near-death experience, but incredibly depressed and physically exhausted. He decided he had to do some investigation himself. And he was terribly shy, and out of his shyness, his desire to actually be able to speak to women, he came across a book by Krishnamurti. And he just pulled it out just because it had something about consciousness in there. And he started to read that book, and something struck him that was so foreign to him, and yet something inside him knew that following this path made sense. And he was a terrible leader in his organization. The people that worked for him hated him. He got promoted immediately to being a senior manager because of his knowledge in the field of aerospace. And so he didn't know how to lead. And what happened was, once he discovered this new area of investigation, he shut his doors. He delegated everything to his subordinates, and just read voraciously in his office everything he could find from Krishnamurti, and then things related to him. And his followers, his reviews of his followers were that he was an outstanding leader, that somehow something had shifted in him. He just actually turned everything over to them. It was so it's interesting to listen to this, to look at this approach. It's not for everyone, but physicists love it because because they want to know what's real. And so they start from scratch. What do I know for sure? And one thing they know for sure is there's something rather than nothing. And then they also recognize that they know that there is awareness. That they know with absolute certainty that I am aware. And if somebody were to say to me, no, you're not aware, they'd laugh. It's because it's an experiential understanding that happens, that is, it's like faith. It's grounded in direct experience. And so here are what some of the physicists would say as a result of this internal investigation. Here's Max Planck. He's one of the great minds in this field of quantum physics and modern science. He says, science cannot solve the ultimate mystery of nature, and that is because in the last analysis, we ourselves are part of the mystery we're trying to solve. So ultimately, no matter how much we dig into this, at some level, we'll still be left with ultimate mystery. And then he says, from having done this investigation that I laid out in this course, I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness. We can't get behind consciousness. We can't get behind it to perceive it. Everything that we talk about, everything that we regard as existing, postulates consciousness, assumes consciousness. So that's where we start. What is this consciousness that I am? That is aware of the waking state during the day, aware of my dreams at night, aware of the deep sleep state when there is no memory, aware of what's happening when I'm in a coma, that never sleeps, always aware, always awake, always itself. What is this? Is there any evidence based on my experience that this presence, this awareness, is limited and dependent on the body? It's such an important investigation because it's at the heart of what Byron Katie's question would be. What is life like when you believe to be a separate entity? Or Einstein's statement, our task in life is to overcome the delusion of our separateness, to overcome our delusion of separation. So these physicists, in their truth-seeking, come to this place that is described so clearly in the teachings of, at the highest level of almost all the religions of the world. That this aware presence seems to be, let me go back a second. What is so important here in this first investigation is to find out if there's any evidence that this awareness is separate and dependent on the body. Because if we can get to the place through our own investigation that we don't know what awareness is, that we don't know if it shares the same limitations of the body, we can then drop the belief to be a separate entity. There is no need to take on a new belief. See what happens when you drop the belief to be a person, to be a limited body mind, born and know that you're going to die. What happens to the existential angst of having to protect this body so carefully? Because if it disappears, you disappear, that you absolutely disappear. This awareness disappears. So in this first investigation, we get to the place that I don't know what I am. And it opens up something new for us. In this openness, this is like getting to the bottom of the you in you theory, isn't it? You got a problem, you immerse yourself in it, and then you start observing your own thinking. That's the stepping back to knowingly standing as this awareness. And then you go still. You empty yourself and go still. And from this place of stillness, it comes to you like this. Yes, that's what we need to do. That's the direction we need to. There's this recognition that it's as if it comes to you from the totality of the situation itself. The situation in that openness has revealed its harmonious resolution. And when we experience that, there's a joy. When we experience beauty, there is this joy. When we experience love, there is this recognition. That's what's real. That's what I am. I get it in flashes of understanding at first. This freedom, like going to asking the question, what am I? Or asking the question, what is awareness? Or even the thought, I am, and going directly to the experience of it. Go there now. There is this sense of peace. There is a sense of something real there that is untouched by the circumstances of our life. So as I end this section, the next step, after the first step being, what am I? What is awareness? I know I am this aware presence. 2, I don't know if it is separate and limited as my body is. And then 3rd is that it has opened up us to the possibility, a new alternative to what we are, to being a separate entity, being a person. We open ourselves to the possibility that this awareness is the underlying oneness to reality. As my teacher once wrote so beautifully, it's almost like a piece of poetry. There's an intuition in us that there is but one single reality. It is an intuition that gives rise to religion, drives scientists to find it in a unifying theory, and compels artists to express its beauty. Its implications run deep into every aspect of our life, because it means that this awareness inside is divine. And my awareness is the very awareness in others. So the experiments that we test, the experiments that we do in this course, testing the possibility of one single reality, help us to get feedback from life as to whether this possibility, this extraordinary possibility, that this awareness is the source, that this awareness is divine, this awareness that gives rise to thoughts, feelings, and our perceptions is our very nature. That this, our very being is this infinite, self-aware being. And by infinite, we mean here not finite. Not finite means that it is not in space-time. Finite means prior to, well, that assumes time. That there is something that is only now, that is not in time, that, as Max Planck says, gives rise to experience, gives rise to the Big Bang, in which matter emerges from this no-thingness. And when we begin to get feedback from life, as we try to live it in every aspect of our leadership at home, in the community, or in the workplace, when we see the others as this same divine presence, as this same self-aware being, a whole new set of responses open to us. And we get feedback from life that tells us we're on the right track. So that's where we're going in this course. That's the purpose of, that's the kind of nurturing that this course is trying to contribute to, both within the Conscious Leadership Guild and to the public. So I'll stop here and let's do that breakout session with that question. So the question is, what objections or resistances does our mind have to dropping the belief to be a separate consciousness, a consciousness dependent on our body?